Hey, what's up guys? This is going to be a fairly long demo video. I've got actually 8 of these Raxus Sabers to go over. I've got one for Dale, I've got one for Killstar Sabers, one for Miguel, I've got one for Gabriel, I've got one for Joel, I've got one for Jonathan, I've got one for Kim, and then I've also got one for Faye. So we're going to go over my desk. It's a little bit too much for me to do right here, and we will go over all of these individually. All right. Thanks. So let's talk about these 8 Sabers. This is probably the biggest demo video I've ever done. I am going to go through each of them individually. There's 8 here total. I'm trying to get it all in the camera. There are some differences. There's one here that was requested to remain clean. So we've got this one. 7 of them are from the batch 2 Raxus run, which does have some differences than the batch 1. This one right here being the batch 1. If you can see right away, this has the clear acrylic lens right here, and the batch 2s do not. So what Sean and I found out when we did the batch run, or the batch 1 run, was that when we offered the acrylic pieces, they were cool, but they break easily, right? So the batch 1 also had a lot more options. This one was a little bit more expensive, but it came with titanium options, brass options. You had several different options for your screws here, or your lenses. You had clear, red, and dark. There were a lot more options with this one. The batch 2 was a little trimmed down, and it came with just the titanium option. All right, so let's try to get some of the ones that are a little bit different out of the way first. So we're gonna go over this batch 1 Saber just because I'm also gonna use it as an example to show you some differences between this one and the new run. But this one belongs to Dale, and Dale had me do a CFX install. This has my own eco chassis that I came up with. It is an STL that I provided for free on my website for anyone to download that wanted to install this Saber. But Dale did ask me to print the chassis in-house in black carbon fiber, so that's what I did. All right, 7 of these are weathered. This being one of them. Did do some battle damage along the control box here, a little bit on the ears, if you can see that, and on the emitter itself. Pretty much all of these that I weathered, they have a little bit of battle damage just because I like the way it looks. Every one of these is going to look a little bit different just because they're just done by hand, right? I take my Dremel and I'm like, man, I put a little bit here and man, a little bit over here. So a little bit consistent, but they do have differences just because I don't have a template I go by. I just have some places that I like to put it. All right, so Dale requested the red lens up top here and the clear one on the bottom, which is the ones that he sent me to put on. So this one does have the titanium rods. They've been heat stained. The upper and lower crystal pieces have been heat stained. They are also titanium. It's got the Taco Shop brass crystal chamber insert that I weathered up for him. Dale sent me, it's not going to show up very well right now, but when I fire it up, you'll see it. There's a stock V3 in there. All right, so all of these are consistent with the switch setup. So the front switch is going to be power, the back will be auxiliary. I do use a low profile tactile switch here. So if you can see, it doesn't stick up very high at all. I like the fact that they don't stick up and they don't get in the way, but they're very easy to press if you want to come over here and press them. All right, so all of these have the slide down door right here. So he has a different crystal than the rest of them, and we'll talk about that here in a second, but all of them have this magnetic door. All right, to get to the chassis, you just want to unscrew the handle. These panels right here are steel, so they got heat stained. These are steel also, these 6 screws, so they got heat stained. The emitter ring is steel, so that got heat stained, and then the rest of it has been chemically weathered. All right, so just take your handle off like so. This is the chassis. This is the eco chassis that I came up with. I had this in CFX, Golden Harvest, and Proffie versions, of course, this being the CFX version. So this was printed in black carbon fiber. It has, I believe it's about a 10 or a 12 pixel accent strip underneath these holes right here. It does say SP Sabers and Solo Sabers right here, just in some cursive. It's got a kill switch, even though not needed. I forgot to take that out for my CFX version. So since there was a placeholder for it, I went ahead and put it in there so there wasn't a hole. So there's a kill switch for this. Dale specifically requested the SD card side up for his build, so very easy to get to there. He also sent me a Noah Drew holocron marble for the secondary crystal chamber. So that is what we've got there. All right, so on this particular guy, the holocron marble is wired up to the LS2 pad on the CFX, so it reacts differently than the blade. But this Neopixel accent strip here, the main crystal chamber, both are wired in line with the blade, so they're going to act the same as the blade does. All right, flipping it over here, this does have an OLED screen in it as well, so that'll fire up here in a second. It just says Raxus Starkiller over here in some cursive. It does have a removable battery setup, so 18650 for this guy, where the other ones will be an 18350 battery. All right, and then this has a Smuggler's Outpost 28mm Elite speaker in the back, fully enclosed. All right, so let's go ahead and throw a battery in this guy. Spring side is your negative on all these guys. All right, go ahead and clip that in there nice and tough. Come over here and flip the switch. Let me do that again so you can see the OLED screen. Now your crystal will start pulsing, your secondary crystal here. It pulses on and off until we come over here and we turn this on. Now your crystal chamber lights up. This will go and will match the blade. So whatever color you decide for your blade, this will match. All right. Now of course you've got your LED strip over here. Now you can see that stock V3 in there firing up. You get a little bit of shine through right here, as well as here as well. All right. Now this does have twist off, and we'll go ahead and we'll put the handle on it real quick so you can hear what the saber sounds like with the handle on, because it's pretty loud. Again, hit power. Very different sound, nice and beefy coming out of there. Auxiliary back here. Hold it down for blade lockup. We're gonna put a blade in it real quick, and I'll fire it up with a blade. All right, so they all take 7/8 inch blades. Come over here. So this is my little test blade, but this is set up for a full length diameter Neopixel blade. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and just take, whoops, before I do that though, when you have the handle on and you slide this down, very easy to see your holocron marble pulsing right there. All right, and then you just slide this back up when it's not in use. We're gonna go ahead and unscrew this guy. When I flip the kill switch, you'll notice that your crystal stops pulsing because we killed power. All right, and then when you want to take your battery out, do it from the positive side by your speaker. It should pop right out. But Dale, that is your particular saber. So that is the batch 1 with a CFX carbon fiber chassis. I'm gonna put this off to the side and we'll go over the rest. All right, so let's pick another one that's pretty unique. One that I could tell right off the bat would be this one right here. So Faye asked me to do the Taco Shop chassis, but instead of the crystal chamber insert, she was partial to the mesh, this automotive mesh that I use sometimes in my builds. So this one has, of course, the mesh that was requested. All right, but still, all of the titanium pieces have been heat stained. This entire saber has been weathered. And then, like I said, you could see the battle damage. It's just different, but everything is a little bit different, but the same concept, right? So there's a little just battle damage where I thought it would look good, along with the heat staining and everything like that. Now, this is a batch 2 Raxus. So a few differences. One being the handle was shortened up a little bit. If I could take this batch 1 from Dale here and line up these handles, you might see that the pummel, you could see down here at the pummel is a little longer, right? So batch 2 is a little bit shorter there. We opted to go for these inserts now they are machined aluminum, and then they've been anodized or whatever, but they are solid machined aluminum. You can unscrew them, you can put them back in. I did not glue them down for any of these, just in case anybody wants to in the future maybe try to put an acrylic lens or a greebly or a cabochon in there or something like that for some shine through. You can unscrew that and you can replace those top and bottom. They're the same, but these are solid aluminum machined parts now that screw in, and they're very robust. They won't break. All right, now all 7 of these now will have a Carl Chen V4 Neopixel connector. Impossible to see until I light it up, but we will do that here in a second. Another difference is the blade retention. So the blade retention on the batch ones was a combination of this guy. You could screw this down very tightly, or alternatively, you could replace one of these screws in the bunny ears if you wanted to. To get away from that, what we did on the batch 2 is you just come over here and you take this off. All right. When you take this off, you'll see that little grub screw right in front of the main hole. That is your blade retention screw. All right, so that is what we use for blade retention now. What we were finding on some of the batch 1s is that some of these were long enough to use for a blade retention, and some of them I had to replace one of these screws. So to get away from that, this is the solution that we did going forward. Similar, very similar to what you would see like on the Aniflex V2 from 7 Chambers. All right, so that's what you got there. Getting to the chassis, we're going to talk about the chassis in depth because it is pretty consistent among all of these. But then also something that I had to do, the threads, I had to machine down the threads. Now let me see if I can grab a core real quick. My apologies, I don't have one readily available. Even the ones that I have behind me of the batch 2s that I haven't installed yet, I machined them because I was machining them anyway, and I wanted to do them all while I was doing it to save myself some time. It was the most efficient. So as you can see, the threads are right there, right? I probably had to take about that much off. I had to take about that much of the threading off on my lathe. In fact, if you come over here and you see this, you can see where this would be where the grub screw was for a chassis retention. You can see how some of that hole's taken out of there and threaded off. And then I had to go back after I machined some of those threads off because the handle is shorter. I had to drill and tap my own chassis retention, which is an 832, and that remains consistent on all of them. All right, so there's an 832 that I put in here. What does that mean? Obviously the taco chassis still fits, but this saber ends up being just a little bit louder than the batch 1s, because now when you put this handle on, the back of that pommel that you see back there, it butts up right against the speaker, and the only thing showing, you know, is this silver speaker drum right here. I mean, it's right up against there. What that does is it shoots the sound right out the back of this pommel, and these are much louder than the batch 1s, so it ended up working out nicely. I just had to do a little bit of machining. So one thing also I had to do on the batch 1s with the taco shop chassis is I had to come in here and I had to machine the insides of all of the handles that I did. And it was a chore. That was a major, major chore to do. I did it, I got through it, but I had to do it so these chassis would fit. Even still now, these chassis are tight, all right? These chassis are tight. There's a lot of stuff going on in them. They hug the inside of the handle. I had somebody reach out to me recently, was very frustrated, that thought the Saber was ruined because the chassis was actually rubbing up against the inside of the handle. I mean, that's pretty consistent. Even when I design my own chassis, I make them to where they are the same ID or inner diameter as the handle. So when you put everything in, it's locked down. The chassis is shock proof. You could beat you could beat the hell out of this Saber and you don't have to worry about your chassis wobbling around inside of the handle. So that, I mean, that's pretty consistent anyway, but no, these are tight. Also, one thing I did to alleviate having to machine the inside of the handles is I noticed that when I put all of the magnets in these doors, it actually bulged out and increased the diameter of these chassis. So all of these battery covers, which is this right here. They are a nice tight snap fit without any magnets. You're actually going to need a tool to get that out. So what I typically do is I just take my pair of tweezers here, come over here and just kind of pop it off like that, and then you can pop it off. That's your 18350 battery. But I did not put the magnets in here, because when you put this in and you snap it down tight, that thing's not going anywhere. All right. So I didn't do that with this, and I didn't do that with the doors, because these doors, these main board doors, are also super, super tight. They are a nice tight snap fit down into this chassis. They will never be removed unless you come over here and you use a tool. And again, you would just, like for instance, I'm using my tweezers. I'll come in here and I'll kind of like pry it up a little bit and then pop it off, right? And you got, there's your board, and then you've got an OLED screen right there. But these did not need the magnets. So I left the magnets off so that I could maintain the diameter, the original intended diameter of the chassis, and I didn't have to bore out the handles. All right, so there's a lot going on here, but as far as the end user is concerned, there's really no difference. I made up for the chassis retention screw. Everything is a tight snap fit. Now I ran into one chassis where the board cover wasn't necessarily a snap fit, so I did go ahead and I put some magnets in that. I spent some extra time making sure those fit so that wouldn't fall off. But anything that was a tight fit like this, you know, that's what we did. All right, but you got a kill switch right here. You've got a secondary crystal chamber right here with a rotating plasma gate. There is a secondary opening right here. I programmed this to be like broken circuitry, and so everything is doing something different. So we'll come over here and flip the kill switch. These also have 28mm Smuggler's Outpost Elite speakers. All right, but we'll flip the kill switch. You see this is my boot up for the OLED screen. It may be a little hard to see. This is Solo Sabers there, and then it goes into English when the lightsaber ignites. All right. You can see your two crystals pulsing there till we turn this on. Oh, but you can see that plasma gate rotating. We've got that kind of broken circuitry effect right here. Now you can see that Carl Chen V4 Neopixel come up here. That's your battery meter. So eventually, of course, you're going to have to charge that. All right, but when we put this guy on, like I said, they're all tight, but it goes fine. All right, these actually fit a lot better than the batch ones. I was very relieved to see that. But this bar should line up right in the middle of your crystal chamber when it's all tightened down. You can, of course, come down here and slide this down so that you get that crystal chamber reveal, or slide it back up. Now these make this louder than the first ones. We'll go ahead and put a blade in. I'm not going to lock it down, but just to show you that it fires up. I may have to back up that retention screw a little bit. Let me see that, if I've got that in there. Should be okay. Let's go ahead and put a blade in here. All right. There we go. All right, so we'll go ahead and take the blade out. Whoops. These all have twist on and twist off. So twist on, rotating gates. Twist off. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll take the, we're not going to take the battery out, but we're just going to flip the kill switch. All right. So you'll notice when I flip the kill switch, these crystals will die because it killed power. All right, so that's what we've got there. This one belongs to Faye. So we're going to put the handle back on this guy, and we'll put this off to the side. And because I went into so much detail on this one, we won't go into so much detail on the rest that are pretty much the same, because from here on out, they're all set up the same. Just aesthetically, you would have this one that belongs to Kim, Kim asked for everything to be clean, so there was no weathering, of course, right? But so this is what the clean batch 2 looks like. Sliding the paneling down, you can see a crystal chamber here as well. Slide that back up and then unscrew this, and you'll notice the chassis on this one is also clean. All right. So everything remains the same there, just a clean version. Your battery meter there for your OLED screen. Go ahead and slap this back on. Lock this down, and we'll put a blade in this guy too. So that one fires up a blade nice. We'll go ahead and take that out. Come over here and unscrew this guy. And we'll flip it off, and that kills power. All right, so again, slide this on, and we'll put this off to the side. And the rest of these, although I listed who they belong to, they are pretty much identical. So what we're just gonna do is just kind of go off one by one, show them all off. You know, they're all weathered pretty much the same because I weathered all the pieces at the same time. All right, all the heat staining was done, all pieces at the same time. I'll take this handle off here. All right, turn it on. Put a blade in this guy too. Oops. All right, go ahead and take the blade out of this. Oops, I forgot to show the crystal reveal. So, all consistent on all of these. I just kind of like to show them. It does matter what handle goes to which upper part though. Something I didn't realize when I started weathering them. So it was a considerable amount of combinations I tried to get the 7 handles to go to the right 7 upper cores, but I got it now. So that's why I'm a little bit gun shy on leaving the handles off of any of these. All right, so lock that down and put this off to the side here. Go over another one. All right, flip it on. Handle on. Put a blade in this guy real quick. All 7/8 inch blades, although this one I feel like the blade retention screw is a little down into the socket there. There we go. I'll put this back on. Three more to go. So we'll just turn this off real quick. Flip that off, put this back on. of course, this one has, you know, it's crystal reveal also. I'll put that off to the side. And we've got this one right here. A little bit of battle damage, all the weathering and heat staining. One thing about the batch 2s also is that the 6 screws only came in the copper version. So what I did was I heat stained the heck out of these 6 screws to change color and have them match the shroud. So I hope that everybody likes the way that those come. If you don't like those ones, you could trade them out. You just have to go buy some. They're M4s, I believe. All right, so we got the chassis here, flip it on. Handle on. I am trying to show on all of these. I'd like to show the handle going on and the handle going off so that you can see for yourselves. It's pretty easy to do. All right. This one again, I think the blade retention screw is a little backed into the socket maybe. Yeah, let me get that out a little bit. I gotta find the right Allen key. This one's just pretty tough. All right, we'll get that blade out. This blade's pretty tight in there, so all right, put that off to the side. We're gonna screw this one back on so I don't forget. If you have a brand new 7/8 blade, you're probably gonna have to do maybe just a little bit of sanding. Mine's pretty old. It's been tested on a lot of sabers, not sanded quite so much, but it is pretty worn down. So that would be the equivalent of sanding your blade a little bit. All right, so take the handle off here. Turn this on. I do have everything on a timer, so if you don't turn the saber on right away, it will time out so it doesn't kill your battery. But we'll turn this on again, flip it off from the kill switch, and that kills power. All right, line that panel back up. Put that over here. And we'll go over this one. Pretty much identical weathering, all right? All right, we'll put the handle on this guy too. Lock that down, put a blade in here. All right, take the blade out of here. And we'll flip it off from right here. Easy to do. All right. Put the handle back on this guy. Lock that all the way down. You can see your paneling right there where it's intended to be. And then we've got our last one right here. All right. So again, pretty consistent weathering across the board. One last thing about the batch 2s is that this piece right here is not anodized like the batch 1. So, you know, this is Dale's from the batch 1. He had that anodized black, and this one came with bare aluminum. So that got weathered on all these. All right. Come over here and unscrew the handle. Flip our switch. back on. All right, put a blade in. May not be in all the way. Yeah, there we go. All right, flip that back like that. And we'll come over here and unscrew this as well. All right. And then easy enough to flip the kill switch just like that. But that is basically all 8 of these Raxus Sabers. I will get with everybody individually, of course, and get these all sent out. All right, and thank you everybody so much for your patience. Thank you, Dale, for his patience. I've had his batch 1 since February 11th, so I've had it for a little while. He's been very patient with me. You guys who got in on these batch 2s, you paid for those pretty early and had your taco chassis sent to me, so I have had trying my best to get them done as quickly as I can, but maintain a quality standard so you guys didn't have to wait any longer than you had to. But please let me know if you have any questions. All right, thanks.